I was working on a project, another film that I scored called Nobel Sun, and got a call from my manager and said that he'd had a conversation with Mr. Sorry because we'd worked previously on Appleseed, and I worked on Shrek 2. I did a cue for that, and I enjoyed the process of working to animation. So when Appleseed came along, it was good for me to work on that. And then when my management told me that they were interested in us scoring the film, I was really excited because also I go to Japan as a DJ. I've toured there with U2. I'm a fan of Japanese culture, so to actually be working on a Japanese animated movie and scoring it was a big challenge for me, and it was a great process actually. I really enjoyed the process in terms of Mr. Sorry coming to Los Angeles and sitting here for 4 to 5 hours and going through how he wanted it and what he wanted, and breaking it down in terms of structure, sound and overall music. And I think we found a sound that really fitted the picture very early on in the process. I think the way I saw it from looking at some of the early footage was, and being familiar with Appleseed, and the tone needed to be really needed to be defined earlier on in terms of, I felt it needed to be much darker rather than a lighter, poppier sound. I think also it was important to capture a balance from score and cues. I know from Lisa Gerrard, Dead Can Dance to Basement Jaxx, right across the spectrum really. Boom Boom, they're obviously doing some work, and these guys are doing each individual cue, and I felt that what they were doing and what we were doing needed to flow in terms of sound through the picture. So that was very important. In terms of the story, I mean, with Hollywood has touched on it with Terminator, it's been there with Matrix. It was, for me, it was a different approach. I like the idea of the sentiment behind the story. You know, it still had a human factor, and I like the idea of it being action, but there was still an interest within the characters, within one another, which I think is quite hard to tell in terms of telling that story. I think it's quite hard to do when it's in animation, but it works really well. I think animation is becoming more and more realistic in terms of, you know, it's verging on, is that real, isn't it real? I mean, especially with Appleseed, sometimes you'd have to have a double take to really figure out that it wasn't real. In other respects, I think what they're doing with the likes of Shrek and, you know, those kind of pictures, again, that's taking it in a completely different direction, but it's becoming, and it's certainly becoming more and more popular. Very Japan. I mean, it's Japan in a technology sense. I think personally, and I know a lot of my friends have always seen Japan as always the future in technology. You know, there are places and things you can buy, places you can go and things you can buy that don't actually come on the market anywhere else in the world other than Japan. So I think it sat comfortably in that arena. Yeah, I think from a DJ's point of view, I wanted to move into different areas. I'd felt that, you know, it was obviously right for me to make the next step. I'd been invited to Hollywood, I'd scored Swordfish and started to get these offers in to do cues for films and other scores. And for me, it was always the obvious step as a kid. You know, I used to sit there with my father and watch film. I never thought I'd end up in Hollywood living here, but you know, I grabbed the opportunity that came my way, and DJing now sits, you know, kind of second and third in my priorities. I still love to do it, I enjoy it, but it's not a priority no more.